In this lesson, I'm going to show you a practical application of absolute positioning by superimposing a splash banner image over the top left corner of this image. The final result will look like this. Along the way, I'll explain some of the reasons why absolute positioning is rarely, if ever, suitable for complete page layout. It's far more suited for creating effects like this. Let's get to work in Dreamweaver. I've opened absolute_positioning.html. You can find a copy of this in the course assets. It's in the Using CSS to Fix Elements in Position folder. Let's select the large image first. And if you look in the tag inspector, you can see that it's nested inside a figure element with the ID rock. What I propose to do is to put the splash banner image nested inside the same figure element. So to make sure that my insertion point is in the right place, on my keyboard I'm going to press the right arrow key once and then go to the Insert menu, Image, Image. I'm already in my Images folder, so I'm going to select destination.png and click OK. Then I'm going to give it some alternate text, and in the ID field on the left I'll give it the ID destination. So I've now made my edits and I'm ready to go into Live View. And in the CSS Designer, select Style. I'm putting all the styles in the head of the page and then create a new selector for that image. It'll be #destination. And to make it absolutely positioned, in the Properties pane, in the Layout section, scroll down a bit, there's Position, set that to Absolute. That immediately puts this image on an independent layer in front of the rest of the content. The text has disappeared behind it. The reason it's in this position is because no offsets have yet been set. So let's use the visual tool to set some offsets. I'm going to scrub the left offset, and as soon as I start doing so, it jumps all the way across to the left, and I can then begin to move it into position. That looks okay. And then with top, I'll scrub that too. Move that into position, and that looks pretty nice. And you might say at this stage, mission accomplished, but look what happens if I press F4 to close all the panels. It's moved, or has it? This is something that confuses many people who become convinced that their absolutely positioned elements are moving. If I press F4 again, you'll be able to see exactly what happens. This image, the banner image, the absolutely positioned element, remains exactly where it was before. What has happened is that the page is narrower, so that the other content, the normal content, is centered in a different place. And it's this lack of interaction between absolutely positioned elements and the rest of the content that makes absolute positioning so difficult to use for whole page layout. Although I nested this image inside the figure element, the outer element doesn't control the absolutely positioned one. The offsets are set from the top and the left of the page. For the outside element to become the containing block, it must also be positioned. So we need to make the figure element also positioned. So let's go to the CSS Designer, to the Selectors pane. The ID is rock, select that, and position, set that to relative. And you can see immediately that the offsets have changed. Let's just select the style rule for destination. And the offsets are 67 pixels top, 106 pixels left. So that's 67 pixels from the top of the figure and 106 pixels from the left of the figure. What was happening before was that those offsets were being calculated from the top of the page and the left of the page. So let's alter those offsets. And I'm going to scrub to the left for left, and I'll probably need to go negative. Yes, going negative. That looks pretty good. And again with the top, scrub to the left. That's also a negative offset, and it's brought me to exactly where I want it to be. So let's test it with F4 now by hiding the panels, and they both remain in sync. And that's because the figure element has been relatively positioned, so it becomes the containing block for this element. I didn't set any offsets at all for the figure element. I want that to remain exactly in its normal place in the ordinary flow of the document. All I was interested in was the fact that it becomes relatively positioned so it can then act as a containing block. Although it seems odd to create a relatively positioned element and not move it, doing so creates the containing block. It's the necessary condition for maintaining control over the absolutely positioned element. And once you grasp the concept of the containing block, using relative and absolute positioning in combination can achieve some very interesting effects.